Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. This is Success with Srini. If it's professional growth, personal growth, financial growth, or relationship growth, we're talking about it. One show, one topic. Diving in deep with practical and useful insights that will change and transform your life. Welcome to Success with Srini. And now your host, Srini Sarapalli.
Welcome back. Happy Wednesday morning to you. Today's podcast episode is not going to be that different than what I had been driving here for the last few months now, which is structure your day, structure your time, structure your activities, prioritize them, go after them, accomplish them, feel good about yourself. More or less, that's the structure of this podcast for the last few weeks for sure, few months in fact. So it's not going to be different, but then what I want to do is I want to share a story with you. And from the story, I will explain what are the things that I found out. And from there, a model that I read many years prior to that. And I saw this model play out as a part of the story. So let's get into the story first. The story goes like this. This was a few years ago. I think this was 2014 or so. I left my house and I was going to go for a 2-hour in-person meeting. I was driving on the freeway and 20 minutes into the drive, I get a call saying that the meeting has been cancelled indefinitely. So I was in a situation where I was not sure what to do with the 2 hours. And while usually every time I have a gap like that in between my activities, I use them to read a book or watch a video, a training video, or create a podcast episode, back in the day, a blog post, something like that. But then I was not sure what I would do now. That's the initial reaction is, such a good meeting and now it's cancelled and then I don't know what to do, and a little bit of disappointment. Now, in the moment of the disappointment, something magical happened. Now, I was near an exit. If you take that exit, you would go to a peak, like a mountain. Let's say, not a mountain, it's a hill. You people go there to hike that hill. So I was right there and I looked at the exit, and without even blinking a second, I took that exit. And I went all the way to the foothill, literally, and parked my car and I started hiking. Now, as I got out of the car, I realized that I'm not dressed up for this. When you go to hike, there is an attire. You should be prepared physically. I was not. Now, mentally also, I was not. There was no energy in me to go hike. And again, this was an activity to be done in 2 hours mentally, right? This was because that's the only time I had. I said, okay, fine. So I'm in my formals. I'm going to just go see how far can I go. And, it's okay, right? My shoes won't support this. My clothes won't support this. Let me try this. And if I can go, fine. And let me use the time. So I started hiking up. The thing that was playing in my mind was, okay, if start sweating and I'm going to, my shoes, they'll become uncomfortable, then I'll come back. And I kept on going, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and all the way for about an hour and 15 minutes, which was the peak. Like you take an hour and 15 minutes to go up, maybe 45 minutes to come down, and that would fill the 2-hour time gap. So went up, came down, felt good about myself, no resentment, no anger, because the meeting got cancelled, and I went home. Now, why I'm telling you this story is because prior to that, I read an incredible book within which this specific activity, like this specific model, was described. Now, let's first analyze this whole thing. So I was going from my house to a meeting. So there was a time gap. That means I was able to do this because there was some available time. Suddenly time became available. Now, the context is incorrect, honestly, because I was not prepared. I didn't have the tools to prepare myself to go up and do a hike. But because it's not the right context, but then still I was able to attach a context to the time that was available to me. Now, in terms of energy, even though I was not really my pre-frame was not to go and hike, because people have this framing that a lot of framing goes into any activity. My framing was for this meeting. But then somehow, it turns out that I indeed had some energy in me. So I was able to go up and come down. And then, even though this was not a priority, but hiking was a priority. It was somewhere there, way below, because at that time I was preparing to go to mountains and all that. So these are the 4 things that played out. Years prior to that, I got the book called Getting Things Done. Incredible book. And this book is written by David Allen. This book came out in 2001, I believe, and I read this book multiple times. I have this book gave away this book multiple times to multiple people. This is an absolute must read if I'm coaching someone, if I'm mentoring someone. And then the second book that I read subsequent to this one was Putting It All Together. Incredible author, incredible books. Now this book, the book that I have with me, I'm not sure, this is not a hardbound one, but in the page 192, David Allen talks about the concept called 4 criteria model for choosing action in the moment. So in the moment, you choose to take an action. It talks about 4 criteria. The first criteria, he says, available time. So you have a task that you completed. You have some time before you go into next task, and it could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever time you have. Can you bring and can you do something else, and can you accomplish something else? He talks about that. Then he says you also got to look at the context. So first is available time, second is context. Now I'm here, right, in my car. What all can I do? I'm driving. What all can I do? Well, in this case, I happened to see the exit to the hill, so I just took the exit and went up the hill. But for others, it could be making phone calls or getting stuck in the traffic and trying to reach some people or whatever, listening to an audio or something like that, right? So where you are and what tools you have may decide the activity that you need to pick and accomplish. Remember, David Allen is talking about creating lists and getting things done. So these items that you would be doing, they are list items. So hiking was on my list. That is why I was immediately able to relate, instantly, in a moment, able to relate and said, yeah, let me go get this done. Then he talks about energy availability. Sometimes you have more energy in you. At the end of the day, let's say you have done a lot of things and then you have some energy left in your body. And then you say, okay, I still feel active. Why can't I go run for a half a mile or something like that? Or why don't I clean the room? I have energy in me. So he makes a point. He says vitality defines productivity. So there are some incredible principles he talks about in this specific context. And then let's say, you suddenly are in the moment, you decide that I need to get some things done. You can also always go back to your to-do list and pick up the one that has some priority. Okay? Just whatever priority, it has. Maybe it was prioritized to be take the last one, but then you can do it because you now have time or you have the energy or you have the context. So for example, let's say that working out is the last priority you have. In my case, that was the case, right? Last priority, workout. Let's say you want to do some workout tomorrow. It's not on today's to-do list, but it's there on tomorrow's to-do list. Again, this was the case in my case also. I was not supposed to go and hike that day. I was supposed to do that the next day. But then, suddenly some time was available. I had some energy in me because I was driving. And then even though the context was weak, I did not have the right tools, but I still went up. Okay? So, not a priority, but still I could fit it in. Here is the case in all these points. The case is that I want you to understand that you don't need to be exact or to the point with your to-do list. You're doing some things, and then maybe the first task completed much faster than what you thought. Now you have time. What can you do with the time? Then the second case in this point is this model. I want you to go get the book, Getting Things Done by David Allen, and read this specific model in the page 192. I want you to do that. And then, knowing what you know from this podcast episode, at least I think in the last 10 minutes, whatever I explained here and the way I said it, look into all the leaks that you have got going, right? In whatever you're doing. You have activities that let's say you do work off of a to-do list, and as you are working, you are unknowingly doing this maybe. I read this book much before than this event happened, but when this event happened, and when I went back to the book, that's when I realized, okay, so this is what happened. Suddenly time became available, and even though it was not a priority, I had some energy in me, even though the context was weak, I got it done. No, David Allen talks about it. See? So, maybe you're doing some things like this. Maybe you're wasting time in between tasks. Maybe you should bring in some things and get them done. Right? So, hopefully, this gives you some ideas. Certainly get the book, read the book. And the bottom line is this. You want to become effective. You want to become productive. Right? And you want to close as many as loose ends as possible. And a structured approach like this allows you to get control of all the activities that are happening now and that are being stacked up for a later in time. So this gives you control. And by the way, there are so many such models. I'm just happen to be sharing one because this book is awesome and I went through a real-time scenario like this. Hopefully this is helpful. If it is, you know what to do. Write a review, rate the podcast, and you have a question for me, you know how to reach me. That's all for now. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, hopefully with another incredible book and incredible author. Who knows? Stay tuned.
You've been listening to Success with Srini. Srini is committed to changing and transforming your life, whether it's professional growth, personal growth, financial growth, or relationship growth. Srini has positively touched the lives of over 1 million people through his seminars, webinars, workshops, and radio shows. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up the YouTube channel at Success with Srini and the website at www.srinisarapalli.com. Remember, improvement begins with I. See you next time on Success with Srini.